Alright everybody, so for anybody who cares, this is just going to be an introduction to my four-wheel drive Prerunner build. This is going to be a four-wheel drive Prerunner. It's basically the one thing I wanted more than anything, and I'm just going to log what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and what parts I'm doing it with. So it's more of no how-tos, it's just gonna be, this is my project, this is what I'm doing. Sort of input information for anybody who wants to do the same thing. So with that said, I'm just gonna kind of go over what I've done to it so far, what the plan is, things like that, and sort of take a little tour on this thing, or this truck, for this four-wheel drive Prerunner build. So, it is a 1998 Ford Ranger 4.0 OHV 5-speed automatic four-wheel drive truck. It's an XLT, if you can see the badge there on the fender. It's basically got everything but power windows, door locks, mirrors. Which, for what I'm going to do with it, it's not a daily driver. This is going to be a toy, so I don't care. So let's take a tour of this truck, and I'll show you what I'm going to be doing to it, what I'm going to have done to it from a shop, and basically it's just, here's the introduction to this vehicle, and I'm just going to log what I'm doing. So let's walk over to it. As you can see, it's already sort of half ripped apart. I'm doing some measurements and shit up here, tools and everything. We're going to start with the driver's door interior and then work our way around, sort of. As you can see, airbag's already out of it because I don't want an airbag in my face when we jump the thing. The whole point of this build is to keep the stock drivetrain, stock wiring harness. The whole idea of this build is to make it daily drivable if needed, but don't want to. That's the whole point of this build. Because I have two other vehicles. One I'm going to sell, but then I'm going to get another one as a daily driver. And the other one's the Jeep, which is sort of in a gray area. I can daily drive it, but really don't want to. It works pretty much just well, but that's sort of just out in the gray area vehicle. This is going to be the pride and joy toy. So I already ripped the carpet out of it because it was nasty. I can show you, this is what I mean. Look at this. I don't know what the guy before me spilled here. It might be coffee, but the carpet was nasty. The smell is not as bad because the carpet's out of it. And yeah, the airbags are out of it because this toy is not going to need airbags, and I don't want an airbag in the face. Couple things in here. If you look, it's got 199,000, basically 200,000 miles. The HVAC works, even the AC works, but the problem is it's stuck on defrost, so I'm gonna have to fix that. I would like to keep AC in this because I'm a bitch like that, but we'll see. Other than that, it's just a stock interior that's half sort of ripped out, half, like, you can't, I don't know if you can really see. It's just, the carpet's just gone for right now. More of this interior is going to get ripped out. Right now, I have, why is this still on? Oh, Jesus. Yes, I know this. Okay, we're just going to plug this for right now. Well, okay. That did not fall outside. That fell on my foot. No, that's fine. So I don't drain the battery. The only reason that's plugged in right now is because what I had to do when I first got this, I had to adjust the bands on the transmission. And this, when you have a fully unlocked one, you can actually go in and adjust line pressure, which I did, which helped the transmission tremendously. Not only the bands adjusted, but the line pressure, because the transmission shuddered pretty good when it was shifting, and it was shifting pretty soft. So, and also it was slightly slipping in overdrive. Now it's pretty much good, and hopefully it'll last a decent amount of time, but it's going to fail for what I'm going to show you next. But other than that, it is a stock 90s Rangers in the interior. Broken switches for the cruise control, that's what that is. And the shifter's loose up here, but that's probably going to be gone. A lot of things will be changing in here, but this is just the what it is right now. These seats are in here just temporary, just to test drive it and test things out. So that's just the simple interior. Back here I have some parts. I'm going to try and make my own quote-unquote cold air intake, but that's later down the road. What I want to try and do with this is an Innovation Motorsports twin wideband O2 reader, so you can read a V engine, because it'll read one bank and another bank. I got this because I want to try and get this, convert the O2 sensors from the narrow band to the wide band, but I have to make a signal that the PCM can understand. It's going to be a whole video in itself, hopefully, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I have no idea. It's just something I'm going to try. If it does work, sweet. If it don't, well, hopefully I don't fry the computer. But we're going to try something. That's just junk over there mostly, the grill. And over there is what I'm trying to do. We'll go over there in a moment. So up here, for some reason this 98 is a low emissions motor down here. So I believe it was made for California, but it was a Florida truck. Anyway, that's not really important. I guess, well, meh. The EGR I'm deleting in this, and all the cats are going to be eventually deleted in this, because this is going to be a toy, not really a daily driver. But I also live in Michigan, so there's no emissions testing. So with that programmer, you can turn off the EGR and the third O2 sensor and just have the engine run normal, no emissions on it. Which, for what I'm doing with this thing, is what I want. The intake is off of it because, one, the EGR went to that intake, and two, I'm doing measurements for the supercharger that you saw back over there. Other than that, it's basically a 200,000 mile 4-liter. It leaks oil. I think the rear main seal needs to be changed out or something, or the oil filter adapter. It's just leaking bad. Right now it doesn't bother me because I'm not driving it. This is just, I'm doing some stuff now, changing some stuff, doing measurements. Doing this in a very methodical manner. Pretty much there's nothing other than the harness has to be fixed on some connectors, like broken connector, bare wires on that one, broken connector on the crank sensor, just like some connectors have to be fixed. But other than that, you got dry rotted vacuum lines, gonna have to fix that. But I am putting a supercharger on here and just working our way around. Interior, nothing to see. This is basically what most people want to know about, is the supercharger. So this I got for free from work, from a colleague at work that had this sitting in his garage for I don't know how long. It is corroded, needs the coupler replaced. But this is a Series 2 GM 3800 Eaton M90. I think it's called the Generation 3 one. I believe it's the Generation 3 one because it has more bolts there and it's got the shorter air intake there. That's what this is. If I can move this with one hand. I'm going to try and adapt this supercharger onto the OHV engine because the OHV engine is simpler to work on than a single over cam engine. And I want to try and just get this to have a 300 horsepower V6 that isn't stupidly put together to where it's difficult to work on. And in this box is added parts for the supercharger, which we have it in sort of in pieces. This is a supercharger that is another Eaton M90, but it was made for Ford for their Super Coupes, their 90s Thunderbird Super Coupes that had the 3.8 supercharged 4 engine in it. Both these superchargers are very similar, but they were made for different manufacturers. So this one is made for Ford. I believe they have the same scroll or screws, but this one has a different casing than that one. That's heavy to pick up with one hand. But one thing I noticed while doing research and looking at pictures, there's two versions of the 3.8 supercharged one for the Ford one, and there's multiple different versions for the GM one. That's the Gen 3. I believe they go off of this is the oval one, okay. The Ford one's an oval port. There's some that are square port. And then the nose cone, they have two different bolt patterns, if you see there. And then you look on the Series Gen 3 off the Series 2. Does it look kind of familiar, the bolt pattern? Because here is the issue. There is so much aftermarket for this blower off of a GM because they made so much more of them, whereas that one is very limited. But what I've noticed is these both nose cones have the same bolt pattern, and the problem with running this GM one is this GM supercharger is too long. Let me show you. Just setting it up there, the pulleys have to align, but the pulley right off the bat is sitting here right in front of the belt, and the back of the supercharger is hitting the firewall. So right off the bat, the supercharger is too long without a body lift to really work. Now, I have several ideas on trying to get this to work. One of them is being swap out the Ford nose cone with the GM nose cone. Because, granted, they're both Eaton superchargers. They're very similar, but Eaton made this supercharger for Ford, this supercharger for GM. Ford, GM. So they're very similar, but they do have subtle differences. Like I said, I believe they both have the same screws in it, just their housings are different. I might be using that one. I would like to use this one, but I might be making adapters to use this one with GM parts. So it's going to be a hodgepodge of parts and kind of custom-made stuff. But the other problem is this section here. Again, it hits the firewall here. So I don't know how much I will gain using this slightly shorter nose cone. If you can sort of see right there, I can drastically move the supercharger forward a few inches. That might give me enough room to not have this hit the back of the firewall, but I would have to make an adapter to get the forward stuff to run this. So that's the other problem, is cutting up this supercharger from here back and welding. This is cast aluminum, so it's going to be kind of tricky. But then I have the bypass valve I need to work. Basically, I play this by ear to see which supercharger I can use and how I can use them, because I might have to use that one because of space. So I might be using that one, but I might be setting up adapters. I'm going to be making manifold adapters to run GM components to get this to work. Because the other thing I'm doing is I'm running an intercooler. There's going to be a water to air sandwich intercooler between the blower and the actual intake of it, and that's just parts, supercharger oil, the bypass valve for the GM side. There's actually a new coupler in here. I just have parts on top of parts on top of parts. But this is kind of the intro. It's probably going to be really boring, but I'm just putting this out there to see if anybody wants to do the same thing. They kind of can. I'm going to have to make custom stuff. And the other thing, I'm going to begin to try and use the stock PCM. But the problem is this is meant for a natural aspirated engine, not a boosted engine, so we'll see how well that goes. But we're going to try and use it for the time being. More than likely I will switch out to an aftermarket computer, but the other problem with that is the transmission's also controlled by this computer, so I need a transmission controller too. But I'll cross that bridge when we come to it. This is really just an intro to this whole thing, and I almost tripped over a transfer case. But this is the main thing I'm trying to do right now. Get the whole drivetrain ready for when I send this whole truck to a fabrication shop to put a cage in and completely redo the front suspension, rear suspension. Like, I want this truck to have 16 to 18 inches of travel in the front and about that 16 to maybe 20 in the back. And the other idea is I'm going to have this bed is going to be gone. I am not running a bed at all. It'll have bed sides, but I'm just going to spend the money and have a fabrication done to where it comes out, bolts, just fender sides, and the bed I don't want to cut up because it's a rust-free bed and I can sell it for money. So the whole point of this truck is to be a pretty dope suspension travel truck with a decent drivetrain in it. It is the stock drivetrain that comes in it, and they're not that great, but it's cheaper for me to work with what I have than for me to slap an LS in there, which eventually I would like to do, but I would just like to play with this 4-liter a little bit, see if I can test the theory on the internet that all you can do is put 250 horsepower to the tires with this engine before it starts braking. I'd like to test that theory. So I would like to reduce 300 at the tire, but we'll see. It might go through several iterations, but this is just the beginning of the project. I don't know how I'm going to really log this. I really don't. I would like to log it, but I don't know how I'm really going to do that. So there might just be videos like this where it's just update, what am I doing? Rather than just a video of me just doing stuff with it going by. So I have no idea how I'm going to record this. Because this beginning one, is probably really boring now. So that's basically it. I'm just doing drivetrain stuff. Get the engine up to par, fix some stuff, modify it. I have to modify the whole fuel system because I'm running a boost instead of NA, so I have to redo the whole fuel system. That's a whole nother video. Fabrication work I don't really do. I don't really want to do it, so I'm just going to outsource that to some shop. But I'm just basically getting my portion of it, the one portion of it that I can do, done, which is messing with drivetrain, fixing it, modifying it, and getting it all ready for the fabrication shop, and gutting it, gutting the interior mostly, and setting it up. The fabrication shop can do the rest of the stuff. Yeah, I don't think there's any much more than that, because it's just going to be boring. Yeah, I'm done. Alright, bye.